Oh great, here comes November, the disappointing time of year when those scary jack-o'-lanterns melt into slime on your front porch, making way for boring rustic seasonal gourds on the dining room table. Meanwhile, the ghost of Mariah Carey emerges from its tomb to haunt the PA systems of shopping centers with a ghastly dirge of Christmas time demands. But hey, on the bright side, November also means new video games, and I am here to tell you all about them. Here are November 2024's biggest game releases. Before we get started, just our usual friendly reminder that we do our very best to be as accurate and comprehensive as humanly possible, but video game release dates do have the tendency to change faster than we can make these videos, whether that's the occasional surprise launch of a game or the more frequent last-minute delay. On top of that, we're human beings, in spite of all evidence to suggest otherwise, which means that we are prone to making mistakes, but also we have feelings, so if we screw anything up, please be kind. Everybody's trying their best over here. Anyway, on November 1st, you can take a hike in the somewhat literal walking simulator Albatroz, which will have you backtracking through forbidden lands on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. If you prefer to hoof it while traveling light, Last Spartan Glory Over Madness is a deck builder with a side of dice rolling that has you playing the part of King Leonidas as he fights his way home to Sparta all by his lonesome because eldritch forces have laid waste to all 299 of his equally ripped and shirtless bros. That's on PC for now, but hitting consoles in February. On the 4th, Nazar is a blend of 2D platforming and FMV cinematics, and the approach here is definitely interesting, set against the surreal landscapes of Turkey's real-world region of Cappadocia, with the action coming from live-action silhouettes inspired by traditional Turkish shadow puppets. This time of year, a lot of folks complain about dry turkey, but usually they're referring to overcooked poultry, not arid desert landscapes, which are a lot more palatable in this context. That's on PC. Also on PC that same day, plus Switch, PS5, and Xbox Series is Techtonica, a first-person factory automation game that'll have you exploring an alien planet and solving a mystery in between shifts on the old assembly line. On November 6th, if you want some icy isometric cyberpunk action, there's SlavicPunk Oldtimer, which looks a little bit like The Ascent. That's on Xbox Series and both the PlayStations. Another isometric outing is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate, which has been on mobile and Switch for a minute now, but is soon coming to PC. This is, from what I've heard, a pretty competent Hades-style roguelite with the added bonus of co-op gameplay and being rooted in TMNT mythology rather than the Greek kind. If day-to-day life is an unmanageable roller coaster of emotions and you'd rather it was an actual roller coaster that you were in charge of managing, well, Planet Coaster 2 is here to help you keep things on the rails through all the twists and turns. Since the first roller coaster tycoon-like dropped back in 2016, this developer has worked on Planet Zoo and the Jurassic World Evolution games, but if you prefer managing theme parks where you're more concerned with customers losing their lunch than the attractions getting fed theirs, you could buy a ticket and get in line for Planet Coaster 2 on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Depending on how many siblings your mom and dad have, the holidays can truly be an empire of aunts and uncles. But if you're more interested in one of those that's less avuncular and more arthropodal, Empire of the Ants, No You, is also a video game about bugs. This is a nigh photorealistic strategy game that I was briefly really excited about until I saw an enormous nigh photorealistic wolf spider, and I don't need that in my life, thank you very much. That's on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC on November 7th. Something coming out that day that's not remotely photorealistic and probably doesn't have any wolf spiders in it unless one of them crawls inside the game case is Mario and Luigi Brothership. The meaning of the name is twofold. One, it's a portmanteau of brotherhood and friendship, describing the close bond between those titular Mario brothers, and two, they ride around in a boat in this video game, which is pretty cool. That's exclusively on Switch, available digitally and physically, and say what you will about digital games versus physical, both may have bugs from time to time, but it's a lot harder for arachnids to hide in the former.
You're the Spider-Man from YouTube.
I'm not.
That same day, Maximum Football leaves early access on PC, and as the name suggests, this features as much football as a video game is capable of having in it without causing your PC to immediately catch fire and explode, destroying your whole house. Okay, so that's not 100% true, but depending on what kind of specs your rig has, there's still a distinct possibility that could happen. What is 100% true is this is a new video game about football of the American variety.
Broncos country, let's ride.
You can tell these are American football players because the males are larger, with chitinous plating across the upper thorax and head, whereas old world football players have visible plumage, are generally smaller with more delicate exoskeletons aside from calcified tarsal regions they protect their legs with while kicking around the football. Now you know.
Football is life!
Oh boy.
If the real-world political and meteorological climates aren't depressing enough, good news! Metro Awakening is an all-new single-player game set in that particular post-apocalypse first introduced in the novel-turned-video game Metro 2033. Awakening has been developed from the ground up exclusively for VR, and you can get tunnel vision with your headset of choice, whether that's PC, MetaQuest, or PSVR. If you don't want to work, you just want to bang on your drum all day, Taiko no Tatsujin has been on Switch for 2 years, but that's arriving on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC on November 7th to let you do exactly that. Taiko, that's how you spell RC, but also traditional Japanese percussion. Finally on that day, River City Saga 3 Kingdoms Next takes those beloved super deformed dodgeball-loving miscreants made famous back on the NES by River City Ransom and turns them loose in 3rd century China during a period of political upheaval? And this is the second game in which they've done that? Oh, sure, why not? Anyway, that's on Switch, PS4, and PC. On November 8th, Slitterhead comes to the PlayStation's Xbox Series and PC. This is the first game from Bokeh Game Studios, founded by Keiichiro Toyama, who directed the original Silent Hill as well as Gravity Rush. Slitterhead looks like it kinda splits the difference between the two, with some clear survival horror elements, but also a novel mechanic that'll have you possessing various living things around you. Looks somewhere between Ghost Trick and Ghostwire Tokyo. On November 12th, it's time for the annual Farming Simulator Harvest. It's a fairly self-explanatory series that's become very much a known quantity, but this year's crop adds cute baby animals and also hail and tornadoes, so if the lack of those things is what's kept you from getting into simulated farming, now's your chance. That's on New Gen and PC. That day also sees the release of Rise of the Golden Idol, the somewhat surprise sequel to one of the best reviewed puzzle adventure games of 2022, Case of the Golden Idol. That's coming to PC, all the PlayStations and Xboxes, as well as Netflix games, which means iOS and Android, but only for subscribers, but also to some smart TVs and set-top boxes. So I guess the real puzzle adventure is figuring out where you can and can't play Netflix games. If you like more conventional puzzle games, there's also Tetris Forever, an interactive documentary / compilation of 15 different Tetris variations like Hatris, which is basically Tetris, except with hats, and a new version called Tetris Time Warp, which I'm guessing involves warping time somehow.
Great Scott.
On November 14th, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake gives the NES Classic a gorgeous overhaul. Don't let that big Roman numeral 3 scare you off. This is actually a prequel to the first game, and Dragon Quest 1 and 2 are getting the same HD 2D treatment next year. I never got into Dragon Quest much, but as a longtime fan of the late and great Akira Toriyama, I've always loved how they look, specifically in the monster department. If Dragon Ball Sparking Zero and Dragon Ball Daima have you wanting to celebrate this guy's incredible body of work, this seems like it is well worth checking out. That's on Switch, PC, Xbox Series, and PS5. Also on Switch, shockingly enough, is LEGO Horizon Adventures, the first standalone LEGO video game that's LEGO-fying an existing video game universe. I'm not counting LEGO Fortnite, since that's more of a mode of an established game, or LEGO Rock Band, because if that counts as a universe, I don't want to hear about it. Anyway, LEGO Horizon Adventures takes the robot dinosaur-infested post-apocalypse of Guerrilla's flagship PlayStation games and gives it a makeover using everyone's favorite Danish construction toy. This isn't developed by TT Games, the studio behind most of the other licensed LEGO games, but it's in seemingly good hands with Studio Gobo, who were heavily involved with making toyetic video game remixes of established IP in Disney Infinity. Anyway, LEGO Horizon Adventures is on PS5, PC, and yeah, Switch, which is still shocking to me. You're gonna turn on your Switch, you're gonna see a PlayStation logo. What's next? Mario and Sonic in the Olympics? I guess stranger things have happened. Still on the 14th is Miniatures, which I was immediately sold on after one glance. I'm a sucker for games that remind me of children's picture books, and this indie adventure seems to be very much tapping into that vibe with its hand-drawn aesthetic. The game has 4 short interactive stories that involve surreal mysteries. Sounds simple enough. That's coming to PC, Switch, and iOS. Finally, that day also sees the release of Behemoth on all the current VR headsets, which looks like a nice crunchy dark fantasy action game that'll have you getting medieval on some enemies your own size while also punching well above your weight class and taking down some enormous monsters, Shadow of the Colossus style, except in VR. Speaking of crunchy dark fantasy, it's safe to say the original Path of Exile capitalized on disenfranchised Diablo fans who weren't keen on Blizzard's 3rd installment, and if Diablo 4 still isn't scratching that itch for a loot-filled dungeon-crawling action RPG, Path of Exile 2 hits early access on the 15th, and it's free to play on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. November 19th, more like November Flight-teenth, because Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 touches down on the Xbox Series and PC. I think it's really easy to not pay attention to what's new in games that have a year in the title, specifically when it's like an actual current year, like 2024, not like a cool futuristic year like 2077. But this seems like a substantial update to the already overwhelmingly massive first installment of Flight Simulator. Much like the completely unrelated Farming Simulator 25, Flight Simulator 2024 is adding tornadoes and more livestock, but it's also adding wild animals, wildfires, wildfire fighting, and even small controlled fires that are used to heat the air within an enormous fabric envelope enough to generate sufficient lift to get airborne, which is a really windbaggy, long-winded way of saying hot air balloons. I am a dumb, casual, baby, idiot gamer with basically no patience for serious simulation, but I cannot help but get excited about the sheer magnitude of what they are doing with these games. I think hot air balloons are one of the stupidest fucking things ever invented, but I am stoked to fly up in one of those warm bags and go through a major metropolitan area, or perhaps by some iconic landmark, or maybe even by my ex-girlfriend's house. Up yours, Nikki, I got a hot air balloon. Also on November 19th, Stray comes to Nintendo Switch, so if you hissed out when it came to everything else, now's your chance to see what the big deal is. On November 20th, Stalker 2 Heart of Chornobyl comes to Xbox, a sequel to the 2007 game that was long awaited when it was first announced and has been even more long awaited due to how much its development has been disrupted by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, making any kind of a video game sounds like an absolute hellride nightmare under normal circumstances, let alone a game that looks this good and by all accounts plays really well too. So the fact that GSC Game World has managed to see this thing across the finish line while their country has remained under attack is kind of nuts, and I really hope they get some praise and adoration for this. Anyway, it definitely pales in comparison to everything I just said, but Genshin Impact is also coming to Xbox Series that day as well, in case you didn't check that out on iOS, Android, PC, PS4, or PS5, so there's that. And finally, on November 21st, there's On Your Tail, which looks like a nice, chill little slice-of-life mystery adventure set in a picturesque seaside village. And on the 28th, there's Dungeons of Dreadrock 2, The Dead King's Secret, a retro-style dungeon crawler with 100 handcrafted levels with, as is proudly stated on its official website, quote, no procedural roguelike bullshittery, which I was very appreciative of. Okay, there you go. Probably the last big pile of games of the year of 2024. And as always, if you want to keep better track of everything that has ever come out in every year and ever will come out, from now until eternity, we have top men working on it right now over at the Department of Video Game Identification, Cataloging, and Curation, otherwise known as IGN Playlist, which, unlike that Indiana Jones warehouse full of dusty old boxes, is open to the public. Head to playlist.ign.com and keep track of what you're playing right now, what you're looking forward to playing in the future, games that are so good they belong in a museum, or games that are so bad they should not be disturbed by man. What are you playing this month, old or new? Let me know in the comments below. I will be back next month with December's biggest games, which includes a brand new indie game of the Indiana Jones variety, but probably also a few indie games of the independent variety as well, and I'm sure plenty of other stuff in between. Huge thanks to Amanda, Chris, and Logan for helping to pull this video together every month, and thank you all for watching at home or wherever you are every month. I will see you in December, or whenever. See you around. Thank you for watching.